Good evening, fellow vapors. This is Cass, back at you with not another juice review. Today, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I am going to be looking at this here. This is the Dotmod RTA. There we go, look at that. Now, this video is going to be a little bit different because this is an authentic Dotmod RTA. This is a clone Dotmod RTA. We're going to be looking and comparing the two together. I have in this hand over here the clone RTA, although it's technically on my mod at the moment, but this one is the clone and this one is the authentic. Just so you know where I got them both from, this one I picked up at GearBest for a grand old total of £12. This one was bought by a friend of mine, and he's kindly lent it to me for this video for well over 50 quid. More the sort of 60, 75 pound mark is what they retail at. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be having a look at them. I'm going to go down and close up with them. We're going to have a little look at how they look. And then what I'm going to do is once I come back up from looking at them close down, is I'm actually just going to vape them. That's the easiest way. Is there a difference in the vape? Is there a difference in the flavour? Is there a difference in the density, the cloud? All of those things. Is there a difference? So what we're going to do, we're going to go right down and close, and then I will see you guys back up here in a minute with the Dotmod Petri RTA clone versus authentic. See you in a minute. We have the two boxes. One is a clone, one is the authentic. Now we know this one's the clone because it's got the gammy sticker on it. This one's the authentic. They are, and we're going to try and compare as much of the dimensions as I possibly can. They're both the same size that way. They're both roughly the same size that way. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that the clone is actually a darker gold than the original and the authentic. Open them up, and you'll see that they do have almost identical things inside them. So let's go through it quickly. On the left, we've got the clone tank itself. There is a spare piece of glass. We got a spare drip tip. We have an Allen key, and then we have a little test tubey Dotmod style thing. And inside that were a million O-rings and a set of grub screws. The one thing this thing doesn't come with, which I know that the authentic does, is pre-built coils. This didn't come with any pre-built coils. You've got the logo on the top there, is the same as well. In this one, again, you've got the tank. This is the authentic tank. Now, if I show you under here, there is a certificate of authenticity just in the bottom there. And you've got the tank with the laser etching on the bottom. You then get your O-rings. You get in here, this is where you get your grub nuts and your spare 510, and you get a spare drip tip as well. Let's pull the tanks out and have a look at them. Try not to get them mixed up, because they're very, very similar. Madly similar. Now, it is kind of difficult to tell, but this one has a slightly lighter gold and this one's more of a gold. Yeah, they're supposedly both 24 karat. Obviously one is going to be a slightly better quality. Alright, so with the Dotmod, to get to the deck, we're going to have a look at the decks now. You have to undo the 510. You just loosen it off, and then once that's loose, you can unscrew the bottom and all will become clear. The reason that you have the 510 loosening off is, as you can see, just inside there are two locator pins, like grooves, and that's where the sides of your deck fit. The reason they've got that is so that you always get the wicking channels lined up with the juice holes, but you can't do that if it's fixed, so they tighten it off. Completely postless. Your airflow channels come through the bottom here, and what I'm going to do is I'll pop open the bottom of the authentic, and we'll have a look at the decks. Now this one I have borrowed off a friend, very kindly lent this to me, and he has what is the pre-built fused Clapton coils that come with the deck, which is kind of cool. He left them in for me so I can show you what they're like. Take that out, put that to one side, and you've got the deck there. If we put the two together, well, they are, for want of a better word, identical. I've measured these up, and without going into the exact specific measurements of them, they're the same. I cannot find a single measurement that is different on these two. They're the same. The glass, you've got the glass with your chamber in there, and then you have here, which is what... Let me put it all back together. One thing that is worth noticing on this is that the threads are absolutely buttery smooth. Thread across the top here, thread on the bottom, where you unscrew the tank. Even the thread that the 510 sits in, They are absolutely the smoothest thing imaginable. You also have, if you have a look, and look, the tops are the same. They are identical, for want of a better word. I suppose if you put them under a microscope, you could see the difference. I've got to make sure I put the right section back with the right section. That would be awkward. Here you go, friend. I have accidentally swapped out all but one of the parts with my clone. And you got the laser etching. Now, if you look on the bottom of this one, let me pick that up over here. There is no laser etching on the clone, as you would expect. It's kind of tricky with this lighting situation I've got going on, so I apologise. Just unbelievably close. Now, this clone, and I should have mentioned it earlier, this clone, if I haven't already, this clone is a SXK clone. They've made all sorts of clones. They made K-Fun clones, which are basically the same. They've made, well, you just got to look on their website. They've made every kind of clone you can think of. Well, I love it. I love it. And when you think about the price comparison, I mean, this one here, this one's £75 or 60, anywhere between 60 and £75. And this one here, well, it should be about 25 to 30. I paid 12 because I picked it up in a sale, and it kind of makes me doubt. And as if you do have to look hard and do your research, but it almost makes me think, apart from sort of knowing you've got authentic and knowing that you've got the real deal, actually there's very little difference. If you've got the skill and you've got the machinery, anyone can, well, any decent company can make a clone that is just as good. I probably would still buy an authentic, but right now, I just don't need one. These are really, really nice little clones. And I suppose part of the point of this video is to show that with a side-by-side comparison, yeah, there are differences. There are not many of them. Upon vaping, I will admit, this one seems to have a little bit more airflow than this one, but then I did have two different builds in, so it is hard to judge. But this one seems a little airier than this one. I'm not entirely sure why. I've measured all the air holes, they're identical. I've measured the holes into the deck, they're basically identical. Even the chimney widths, identical. The chimney size, identical. It's the same. It's fairly large for a 2ml tank. I won't lie to you, there's not a lot of juice. And it does cane the juice. Absolutely canes it. It's silly. Two of my grub screws have rounded off on this. I can't say for this, I haven't had to play with it for long enough, but I've already had two of my grub screws rounded off, and it didn't come with grub screws in the deck. The grub screws were all the spares that came with it. Now, I don't know whether that was just a manufacturing error or whether that's just how the clone is. Luckily, I do have some 2.5mm grub screws that will fit in there, so I'm not overly worried. I reckon we go back up top. I will vape both of them, and we shall discuss a little bit more about the differences between these clones and the authentics. Alright then, guys. So, we just checked out all of those. They are so close, it is scary. So, what I've got on here, we're going to have a quick vape of them now. What I've got on here is the Clone Petri RTA. I've got it on my Limitless box mod because, you know, everything goes on there. So let's have a quick vape of this and I'll tell you what it is, then I'll swap over. Here we go. This is the Clone version of the Dotmod RTA. Brilliant flavour, brilliant cloud density. I've been using the clone for probably a week and a half now, and I've forgotten all my other tanks. They just sit in a cupboard or a drawer. They're not used. This one has just taken over my life. So this is the authentic version of the Dotmod RTA. Let's have a vape. This one is very, very minutely slightly airier. That is it. The flavour is very much the same. I get a tiny bit more of a sort of a denser cloud, but that's just due to a little bit more air going through. They're the same. I'm sorry, Dotmod. SXK, and this is an SXK clone. SXK have done a ridiculously good job of just making this clone cheaper, of an equal performance, and I'm not forking out mad money for it. I think if you've got the money to go and buy an authentic, by all means, absolutely do it. But if you want high-end vape on a budget, check out a good clone. I mean, it's a different ball game when you start getting into clone mechs and things. As a side note, when you do buy clones, or even any tank to be honest, please check it over. Make sure all the O-rings are there. Make sure all your grub screws are there. Make sure that when you put it on a regulated device or an ohms reader that it doesn't short. I'd hate for you to buy a clone on my recommendation, chuck it on a hybrid mech, and it shorts on you. Be safe with it and go save yourself a couple of quid if you don't want to spend 70 quid on a tank. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I've tried to fit as much information in there as possible. If you have any questions, please leave comments. I will try and answer them all. Thank you for watching. I have been Cass. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it about if you really do like it. I love making these videos, and I know I do a lot of juice, but sometimes I'll try and throw one in there that isn't juice. It just sort of changes things up a little bit. So thank you for watching. I have been Cass, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.